Welcome back to Breakthrough Conversations. My name's Brett English. I'm joined with Holly Loxton, the trauma healer and coach. Thanks for bringing me into your home today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. I wanted to ask you, how did this line of work open up for you?
It started because my family and I lost everything in 2016. And so that was like, my dad lost his business. We lost all of our property and everything. My house was wrapped up in that. So basically, came back from Karratha with nothing and had to start again. And I was in a very, very deep hole. And I was either going to top myself or actually pull myself out. So I really started from the beginning again. I'd already done I'd been into healing and spirituality and that sort of stuff since I was about, I'd say my first workshop that I went to was actually a Brandon Bayes one when I was 20.
Okay.
And then
Brandon Bayes.
Yeah, Brandon Bayes, The
okay.
Journey. And that was a really interesting workshop. And then I had done so many different healing modalities over the years. And in 2016, because I'd gone so far off my path before that, I'd been a personal trainer and massage therapist and going down that sort of wellness route.
That's still cool though, in a sense, like health and fitness and vitality is an important part.
Yeah, that was good. And then I came home from Karratha after I'd been working in the restaurants and the pubs up there for my dad.
Yeah.
And then came back and basically just threw myself into learning everything I could to help me. So I did a lot of hypnotherapy, which I then went on to study hypnotherapy. I also did a lot of mindset work to pull me out of that hole. And it did get me a certain portion of the way, but it wasn't until I found somatic trauma work that things really started shifting in a whole new vibe.
Yeah. Well, what is somatic trauma work exactly, and how does it actually help somebody get themselves out of that pit or hole that you said you were in 2016?
Yeah, so mindset work is very, very crucial and really important. And it'll get you so far in a certain realm of healing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately with mindset, you're only really working with that 5% or 10%, whichever books you read, of what you're consciously aware of, and then the rest of it's really unconscious. So even hypnotherapy, getting into the unconscious mind is good. What I discovered though was with trauma therapy, we are getting the actual trauma out of the body. So we're taking the body out of that fight, flight or freeze, and taking the body out of a freeze and then processing the fight and flight energy that's underneath it out of the body. So getting the defense mechanisms back on board, activating any voice, any rage, getting into repressed anger, repressed emotions, all of that stuff that your body stores, and just allowing it to process out of the body.
Amazing, amazing. What was the cause of the 2016? Was it an economic thing or just a business thing?
Yeah, it was an economic thing. So we had a lot of property and pubs and stuff up in Karratha, and then the property houses, the housing market, just tanked.
Okay.
And so it was just a gradual downslide into that. So unfortunately.
Okay. I'm glad to see that you've transformed your life completely since then. Hey. So in this line of work, what are some common themes that you're seeing with your clients and people that you're coaching or helping with somatic therapy, and what people are going through at this time in the collective? In the collective? Yeah.
I work mainly with entrepreneurs and leaders and people in that space. I think it's probably because I've been from an entrepreneurial family, and I just sort of know what they go through on the in that whole realm. And I've been working for myself since I was 21. So from that particular standpoint, there's been a lot of stress obviously over the last few years in the business space, but there's also been a lot of opportunity, which is good. And it's what we're facing now with our leaders is really a lot of burnout. So a lot of people have these nervous systems that are just so stretched, and they've just been absolutely trashed, not only over the last few years, but I think it's just part and parcel of entrepreneurship. But as the world gets more complicated and there's more things to clog up our bandwidths, we're just getting more and more stressed and overloaded, overworked. So my job is to help them regulate their nervous systems and process the trauma.
Beautiful, beautiful. And when I was chatting with her, she mentioned that you were helping him with his inner work as well and how it affects his outer work in business and the world of in marketing. What are some of the things you're seeing that show up in life and in people's businesses that are representative of the internal state?
Oh, gosh, anything that's a pattern in your life is something to do with you internally.
Yeah.
So I deal a lot with people wanting to go to that next level as well. So they've hit like a certain block of what they believe subconsciously is available to them. And so what we do is we go on what I call the trauma treasure hunt to figure out
trauma treasure hunt.
The trauma treasure hunt
Yeah.
to figure out what is actually stopping them. But quite often too, like I'll say it millions of times, but I truly believe that a lot of huge businesses and very successful ones have been built off the back of huge trauma, because it is a really good driver for people. But unfortunately, they get to a certain point where the amount of external success that they've created for themselves and external, like perceived safety with money and business and that sort of thing, it's not actually fulfilling them. So I do get a lot of entrepreneurs that come to me on that side of things where they're like, I've just built this amazing business and it has not made me happy. So then we go back into why they drove, they were driving so hard with the business anyway. And just healing those parts of them that really require it to go to the next level.
It's a bit of a paradox as well. People can actually have wild success with finances and business, but others can really struggle to hit that threshold of the income they want to make or the business they want to do. And it's like an internal block or belief system. Did you find with those people who were really successful but unhappy had different beliefs around money or different concepts of what money is?
Yeah,
I do.
I do a lot of work with money stuff. It's been one of my favorite things, obviously losing everything myself and having massive trauma around money. And then, I find the money stuff to be incredibly fascinating, to find out where our belief systems come from. And it's like ancestral stuff, your parents' programming and belief systems, what society tells you that it should be. And it's really interesting. Even with entrepreneurs, they get to a certain level and then it's just what they believe is available to them. Yeah. And then we take them to that next level, which is always fun. But money issues I believe are across the board for everybody. Western society in general. Yeah. What
are some of the tools that you have in your practice to break through those limiting beliefs or to become aware of them and change them?
Yeah. We do, it just depends on the person. So whenever we're doing money stuff, it's never about the money. It's usually about some form of self-worth. Okay. Or it's to do with safety and security. And again, what they believe that they deserve in life. Wow. So a lot of people have gone the opposite way. They've still got self-worth issues and that sort of thing, but they're using money as like that external validation to make themselves feel better. Unfortunately though, like spoiler alert, it never does. Never works. And the goalpost just keeps shifting further and further out, and there's just no amount of external success that makes people happy.
Wow. So you got to balance the internal with the external.
100%.
Business route,
and then we mix a bit of spirituality into it.
That's always nice. Yeah.
Love the esoteric. Getting into the nature of our reality and the meaning of life and what we're all here to do.
Yeah. How do you go about helping someone find a deeper meaning or deeper purpose in their business or in their life? Like the people you mentioned that were wildly successful but didn't feel satisfied.
It usually comes down to, first of all, like that self-love part and healing those parts of us, which we all have. I think it's just a byproduct of Western society, really, as well as the trauma that is up to the individual of what their family line is and what they've personally sustained. But it's the real, how to describe it? It's so interesting to see where people's blocks are in that. And so we use a combination of like NLP techniques. I do a lot of parts integration work. We use somatic, like the closest thing to what I do is somatic experiencing. I'm not a trained somatic experiencing practitioner. I haven't done Peter Levine's course, but my trauma trainer has done it
Okay.
And so she curated her own course, and that's the one that I've done. So we move it through the body. But yeah, it really does come down to a lot of safety, security, and love in the end. And what happens then is that sometimes people shift their whole businesses.
Yeah.
But more importantly, even if they don't shift their business, they shift the intention behind their business. And every single time it comes back down to wanting to contribute more to society and not just have more for them. It's a really beautiful thing. They actually want to see people's lives get better in some way.
Wow. So business can be a great tool to self-development and really exploring yourself within.
Yeah, I think getting into business, especially with my own business journey, I don't believe we're coming to a time where you are going to be able to split business and inner work. I think business and personal development really come hand in hand. Like if you want to go to those next levels in your business and you don't want to burn out and you do actually want to be happy, then you're going to have to do the personal development work.
Do you think reality is manifesting a lot faster from thoughts and emotions into tangible reality now, or has it always been this way?
I think it's always been this way. It's just that I think we're now really aware of it. And there's a lot more people that are on the personal development train. And instead of blaming the situation outside of them, they're looking at what they need to change inside in order to have a different external result.
Amazing.
Especially in the realm of manifestation. As much as manifestation is like a buzzword and it's very fluffy in a lot of cases, I don't believe you can have manifestation without healing. Well, not manifesting what you want anyway. We're all manifesting stuff. We're all in co-creation with the universe all the time. But if you want to consciously create something, then you're going to need to figure out all the reasons why you're not there yet, because otherwise you'd have that stuff already.
Focus on why you're not there yet, or what those blocks are. There's
something blocking you in your unconscious, and it's either going to be trauma related, conditioning, programming, belief systems, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I have a loaded question, and I could be wrong, could be my perspective as well, that looking out at the world and getting into the conspiracy, so to speak, and you're seeing a lot of people become really successful, but they seem to be wicked, like big pharma or big banking. Like, why does it seem like the wicked prosper in this world of business and finance?
Well, it depends how you look at those companies and everything. And so if you really want to get into the esoteric thing, I was having this discussion with my client this morning actually. You know the whole concept of as within, so without?
Yeah.
So through trauma healing, through going to the pain of the original wound and being with it long enough to actually release it and let it go, that's where the healing happens. And I also don't believe that, one of the patterns that I've noticed with people when they do deep trauma work is that they naturally start having a spiritual awakening anyway, because they clear their systems out and they start getting in contact with, what's outside of them, whether you want to call it God, source, creator, universe, universal intelligence, whatever you want to call it.
What do you like to call it?
I sort of flit between God and universe, source.
Bit of both, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all the same thing.
It's all the same thing. Great spirit, if you want to work with, the way that people in tribes would talk about it. But it is all the one thing. It's that one consciousness that we all actually are at our deeper core. And I really had to sit with this in 2020. I remember it very distinctly when I was actually outside hanging the washing, and I was thinking, I was zooming right out from a one consciousness point of view. And I was like, why would I do this to myself?
That's a revelation thought.
Yeah, I zoomed right out, and then I was like, it's exactly like trauma healing. You've got to go to the pain. To actually excavate and dig up what's in there and allow it to heal and process. The more work that I get into, I'm not a religious person, but I am getting more into not the Christianity side of things, but more of the Christ consciousness work now as well. And it really is, sometimes we have to steer away from the path to realize how far we've gone before we return. And
it's perspective.
I feel like that's what's happening in humanity at the moment. As far as success goes, it's going to take a lot of people, like the awakening of humanity has been sped up considerably since 2020 because it's been this massive shock to the system where people just can't keep going with their blinkers on anymore. The amount of people that I've spoken to that had no idea about, you know, spirituality or spiritual awakening before 2020, and then suddenly they've been absolutely walloped by it, and realised that, you know, maybe there's more to this than, you know, just TV and work and all that sort of stuff. So I actually think it's been a good thing. There's been a massive shakedown for humanity to actually go, hey guys, we need to work together here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I feel like the recent happenings on the planet, you know, with COVID and the whole crumbling of the system, so to speak, or seeing its flaws, really helps you to awaken to a greater level of consciousness that there's more beyond this great system. There is universal law and there's God and whatever else, but it takes a lot for people to see that when they're stuck, as you said, with their blinders on.
Yeah.
Are you feeling an influx of that Christ consciousness energy on this planet?
Massively, and now I'm seeing it everywhere. Could just be my reticular activating system at work, but I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot more of it. I'm seeing a lot of people that I follow that I have followed for business stuff have now started talking about it as well, and actually revealing their truth around the amount of prayer that they do and the amount of like communing with God and Christ consciousness and that sort of stuff that they do. And I was like, wow, you guys could have told me this when I started following you 5 years ago. I would have liked these cheat codes, thanks.
Yeah. Well, I've always been trying to balance, because my stepfather, he was a Christian preacher, a Seventh Adventist church, and my real dad was, he's a spiritual medium. He does like channeling work. Oh, wow. And I've learned from both of them certain things, even though I'm not perfect in either of them. But I've been trying to integrate these, and I've always just mixed prayer with meditation. And I've had really amazing and beautiful results, and answers to prayers come through in the deep silence, which most of Christianity doesn't actually do, or they're afraid of it due to whatever reasons they slandered the Eastern religions and meditation about being demonic or whatever. But is the missing element to prayer is silence.
Yeah. I find, it's really interesting, the whole religion thing. You can see what the ego has done with something that is a particularly pure and, for all intents and purposes, like a very, very good way of living your life, like good guidelines for life. Yeah. And then humanity has essentially warped it and used it for control and personal gain and 100%. All of that sort of stuff over the years.
Yeah. So I feel like if people or someone's ego wants to make a decision to do something, whether it's evil or for power, they can justify it with religion. So I think that's what they've always turned to as their scapegoat. But it's nothing to do with religion. It's all to do with the intent for the evildoer, so to speak. Yeah.
Although what's evil to one person will be the hero to another. So it's all about perspective.
True. Yeah. Broadly, yes, but not always. I think that anyone who has an intention to destroy something for no other reason than personal satisfaction is, anyway, pretty evil. But you never know.
Depends if you take, like, this is why, again, I take the stance of this one consciousness. Why would it be doing this to itself? Because it wants to wake up to the truth of itself. And sometimes we need that contrast in order to see that.
Or that it's invested in separation or believes in separation so much that, it goes down the wrong path. But as you said before, sometimes you need to go down the wrong path to see how far you've come to get that polarity. What are your thoughts on God and a creator that created everything compared to evolution? What are your sort of thoughts on that?
I don't know enough about the theory of evolution. I mean, I've got my own thoughts about it. I don't really know, like, I don't know if I subscribe to evolution theory. Yeah. Just because of things that I've read and seen, and it's really interesting. But again, if God created everything, then he would have created that too.
True, yeah. So creation and evolution as one. Yeah. I like that.
That's all encompassing. So everything that you see, especially with the amount of bloody plant medicine I've done, when you're seeing God in everything, it's in the door frame, it's in your neighbour, it's in your cat, it's in the food that you eat, it's in everything.
In observing itself.
Yeah, everything is energy. I still think we're in a simulation, but.
Do you think a man-made simulation or an organic divine simulation?
Well, again, in my own personal opinion, everything that's man-made is also divine, because it's all one. So for me, it's like the thing I've been pondering lately is, do I just drop in here at this particular space-time reality as Holly, and then when I expire, does the whole world delete and I just go to a whole different one?
Different server?
Different server and just experience a whole nother reality.
I guess to a point where you think hard enough, the labels don't really matter, it's just the experience.
Yeah.
Which is going to be the same regardless. But I like to believe that we're in a divine simulation, which isn't inside a computer somewhere, but in the original existence. But interesting what you said, whether it's man-made or not, it's still God-made, divine-made anyway. What were some of the biggest obstacles you've had to overcome in becoming the healer and coach that you are?
My own bullshit.
Yeah?
Putting myself out there. Even though I probably present as a lot more extroverted now, when I was younger, in my early 20s, I probably wasn't as extroverted. I used to care a lot about what people thought of me. I was suicidal until I was about 30, and I had never really felt what, self-love really feels like. It was on my 33rd birthday where I actually had that experiential feeling drop in. It was a feeling I had never felt in my life before, and I actually did a psilocybin journey with one of my mentors.
Okay.
It was the first time I'd ever done it, on my 33rd birthday. And
33.
Yeah, 33. And even though I'd done a lot of self-love stuff, and I thought that I was loving myself through my practices and my meditation and bubble baths and taking care of my body and all of that, and I thought I knew what it was, but it wasn't until I had that experience where I actually felt something completely different, and I was like, oh my God, that is what it feels like to actually truly be at peace and actually truly find that love for yourself. And then as a byproduct, a love for all things.
Wow. So in that moment, you truly felt what it was like to really love yourself and to love in general.
Yeah.
And
I
that
had
came through
an extreme amount of self-hatred and shame and everything growing up.
What do you think it was that sparked your mind or sparked that experience to experience that self-love just like that?
Probably a combination of my amazing mentor and the beautiful medicine of the psilocybin. I truly believe that mushrooms will save the world.
Yeah, let's put it in the water supply.
That's what I always say. It's definitely what I want to do.
They put fluoride in there, why not put some mushrooms?
Exactly, just whack some mushrooms in there.
And a lot of them, yeah. Going back, if it's okay with you, to when you were suicidal for that period of time.
My whole life.
Your whole life until you were 30 or 33?
It was until I was 30, and then, I'd had little hints of it through, I actually ended up doing the toad medicine, so 5-MeO-DMT.
I've done that too, yeah, good time.
Which was incredible, but there was not a lot of integration from the facilitator that I had with that. And
was that in Jarrahdale?
No, this was over in Brisbane.
Okay, cool.
And so for the next 6 weeks, it just unraveled my psyche at such a rapid pace that I was like, I don't even know what reality is anymore. I'm out. This is too painful.
Wow.
And I had to make a decision then as well. But the suicidal journey, it's been an interesting one for me, because I was never really that attached to this reality anyway. And so when the pain was too much, it was like, well, what the hell's the point?
Yeah. Psilocybin's a lot more gentle, warm and beautiful, I find. The 5-MeO-DMT was really, what's the strongest psychedelic on the planet, I heard.
The way I describe it, it's a bullet train to enlightenment. And if you're not adequately prepared for it. That was the first psychedelic I'd ever done.
Oh, really?
Yeah, apart from a quarter of a tab of acid in my 20s.
Quarter of a tab. Nice.
Which rocked me. But as far as entheogens go, that was the first one.
So you're quite energetically sensitive to psychedelics, probably meditation as well.
Yeah. Energy in general. I really think that a lot of my quote unquote mental health conditions throughout my 20s, apart from the trauma that I had personally, was really due to the fact that I was so sensitive to other people's energy, and I think a lot of it wasn't mine.
Yeah.
And I just think I was constantly overwhelmed because I didn't know, I couldn't differentiate between what was mine and what was someone else's.
Yeah.
Now I can, and obviously I use it for my work.
Yeah.
Because I need to be sensitive to what people are going through, especially when they're telling me a story and I can feel what's going on for them underneath. But yeah, it was just a really confusing time, my 20s.
That's a big one. Yeah, so there's a saying from one of my favourite authors, his name's Silver Birch, that the price every medium must pay for mediumship is sensitivity. So when you were saying that you can't differentiate your energy from someone else's energy, how did you start to learn that, hang on, what I'm feeling isn't actually mine? And then how did you block out or protect yourself in that way?
So the first time I actually learned that what I was feeling was maybe not mine was actually at that Brandon Bay's seminar, because I was sitting there. It was a really big seminar. There would have been, oh God, at least a couple of hundred people there.
Okay.
And I was really engaged in what she was saying, and I was really interested. And then I remember at one point, I just started getting really angry, and really upset by the things she was saying. And I'm like, this is so weird. What the hell's going on? It was 5 minutes later, we all went on a break, and the woman that had been sitting next to me actually came out, and she started venting about the whole thing. And she was saying the things that I had been thinking in my mind.
Wow.
And I realized at that point, I was like, holy shit, I was just picking up on her stuff. Like, what's going on here?
So your channel was just so open.
Yeah, it must have been. And then I sort of went back to sleep after that, and I never really thought more of it because I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, it's going to go back in the unconscious, and I'll just shove that one back in a box. I'm just going to go back to working in a pub. Just do my 3D matrix shit.
Our girl can't fix.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I was talking about with the suicidal stuff, only as retrospectively now looking back going, oh wow, shit, maybe most of that wasn't actually mine. But it was only through really doing a lot of deep trauma work and figuring out my own emotions about things and clearing out my own personal responses to things. So in trauma work, we have something called overcoupling, which is when two or more emotions are stuck together. And so what happens is if they all come up at once, it can just present as anxiety or, one of the overarching emotions that is an overwhelming emotion.
So you were getting more than two crossing over at the same time, or you're getting a lot coming over?
Oh, heaps and heaps. And it wasn't until I was able to do the trauma work and actually start splitting those off and processing them individually, like processing guilt or processing fear or processing anger, that I was actually able to then register, oh, hang on a second, what is going on here? I can actually now feel into what is someone else's. So my level of empathy was always there, but now I can actually tell very clearly what's mine and what's someone else's.
Since you did all that work of integrating your own emotions.
Yeah, I had to sort out whatever the jumble was in my own system first. Now it's kind of like, have you ever walked into a shopping centre with your phone out and all of the shopping centre Wi-Fi start coming up on your phone? Yeah. That's what it feels like when you're walking through. And
good analogy.
It's bing, 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 but I can shut it down and shut it out now. And I only really just generally use it for my work.
Cool. How do you actually shut it down? Is it a visualization thing, or is it a mental
it's
thought?
A concentration, but it's more, as I've gotten more into a lot more plant medicine, a lot more energy work, and a lot more personal healing, it really is cultivating your willpower and the power of your own decision.
Okay.
So if I decide to shut it down, then it'll be shut down.
Nice.
Whereas if I want to tune into someone and I can just turn my attention towards it and I can just register and witness what's coming up in my own system, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, that feels like mine, that feels like theirs.
Can you tune into people before you've actually met them? Like if you're going to meet somebody, like do you tune into their energy to sort of suss them out energetically, just to know? Can you do that kind of stuff?
What, as if like going on a date or going like having
If
clients
that's what comes
come
to your
in?
mind. Just in general, like if you're going to meet, like you have a job interview, you're going to meet a friend of a friend, you're going to go on a date, you're going to, whatever it is, you're going to meet somebody, like can you just the day before just quickly whoop, tune into their energy, see what they're about, come back, okay, they're safe or they're this or...
Do a scan? Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you do one on me?
Now?
No, did you do one on me a few days ago?
Oh, did I? No, I didn't. I liked your energy and I liked your podcast and I was like,
okay.
Yeah. No, I don't really do it without permission.
Oh, fair enough. I thought it was just like a sus, because I had like a meditation yesterday and you came through, your name just came through prominently, like boom, boom, and then it was gone. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So I thought you just did a little quick scan, like who was this person, and no.
I tend to do that like when I'm working with people, I'll turn up in their dreams or
oh, really?
I'll start thinking about stuff. I get that all the time where someone will call me after I've been thinking about them or vice versa and stuff like that. But I generally try not to, unless they're like a close friend and then I feel like I can crash their boundaries anyway. But the energetic boundary thing is...
Oh, true, yeah. I didn't mean it as like a crossing a boundary, just almost like a safety thing, just to sort of, I'm going to meet somebody, quickly tune in, and you get a vibe of whether they're safe or not, or, you know, just...
It's in safe for myself?
Yeah, safe for yourself, or safe for... Yeah, because I like to do it before a job interview or before I meet somebody, is just send them love or just quickly get an idea of what I'm in for, so to speak.
I do a lot of that in my morning prayer.
Yeah, okay.
So I tune into my clients, past, present and future.
Oh,
and I do a lot of prayer for them. I do a lot of like using my energy to consciously connect with them and just send them loving energy and, you know, success and happiness and all of those things. So.
Beautiful, yeah, that's lovely, hey. Yeah, sorry, there was another, I think we're touching on this before, but how did you get to the moment where you were dealing with suicide that you just decided that it's not going to happen, that you're not going to struggle like that anymore, and that was just behind you? What was the tools that you had, or what was the moment where you sort of said, no more?
The moment was, I really tried, and I couldn't do it. I was at the beach after, like, and this is, I think the last time I really tried that was, after the toad experience, and I just completely lost touch with reality for a while there, and I had some really hard stuff come up in my relationship and my, like, stuff come up with my parents and just a whole bunch of other stuff all at the same time. And I remember going down to the beach and I was going to take every single like painkiller and Valium and everything and just wait till I got really sleepy and just walk into the ocean. And I just couldn't do it.
Wow.
In the end. So
I feel like you were reborn in that moment where you just decided that you couldn't do it.
Yeah, I just decided I couldn't.
Yeah.
So fuck, well, I'm going to have to sort something out because I can't do this. It's not an option now.
Wow. It's a very powerful moment. Amazing. Do you think those thoughts that you were experiencing were a part of the collective, where somehow I'm seeing a lot of themes of suicide in music, in movies, in conversations with people just bring it up sarcastically? It's a really, really big. And I was very concerned about it because it was just popping up everywhere.
There's a lot of that going on at the moment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people leaving this planet from a soul level, I believe.
They just want out?
Pardon?
People just want out?
Yeah, they're just not coming to the next iteration of what's happening on the planet.
Yeah. What do you think is happening on the planet, and why is it causing such massive disruption in people's mental health and sanity?
I think at the moment there's a war for consciousness. That's hence why our attention is being taken by so many things.
Yeah.
And there's also, you know, it's a war for control. We're really we're being tested in how much we actually want our sovereignty and freedom. And it's going to be a choice. We either evolve or repeat.
Yeah. And how do we claim our sovereignty in this war, and how do we keep our heads above water?
do your inner work. Do your own healing. Again, that whole as within, so without thing, if every single person on the planet just downed tools on everything that they were engaging with and focused solely on their own healing, we wouldn't have this issue.
True. What are some of the fundamental basics in inner work for people that are just starting out, doing it on their own? What would you recommend people to start from and to keep in their practices?
It depends on the person's trauma load. So a lot of people that have a lot of trauma, they have a really dysregulated nervous system, and so meditation and all of that sort of thing is really, really hard for them. And so I know for me, in my 20s, I went to a psychologist and she's like, oh, just meditate, it'll be really relaxing for you. And there was no fucking way I could meditate. My mind just would not.
It's like racing thoughts and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it actually gave me anxiety because I couldn't, I was full of way too much pain to still my mind like that. So I would always tell people, I mean, if I had to have a choice between mindset and somatic trauma therapy, I would go trauma therapy every time. Mindset is important and crucial, but we've got 80% more information coming from the body to the brain than the other way around.
Okay.
And so your nervous system health actually affects the thoughts that happen in your mind. If your nervous system is chock full of unprocessed trauma and you're completely dysregulated, your thought patterns are going to be anxious and everything's going to look like a threat. And you can't see opportunities. It's almost impossible to control your thought patterns enough to actually step back and go, oh, wow, I wonder what this particular hard situation is teaching me. Because your nervous system's swiped way too far outside of its window of tolerance. Yeah. So I would always start there with people. I would say the best thing you can do is do somatic trauma therapy.
Okay.
Start there and then do the mindset work as well, because that is important. We do have control over our thoughts. It's important to learn how to actually control what you think so that you can direct your own consciousness. But it's so much easier when your nervous system's in good nick.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So somatic trauma therapy is the first place to be.
I think it's crucial. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I went to your Instagram profile and there's a lot of purple. Do you work with colours and things like that, or why the purple that you chose to work with?
The purple came through because I was doing a lot of work around abundance and money mindset in the first half of last year. Actually, most of last year. It's just what came through as to what was needed in my particular circle. And we had a lot of great success with my clients in that particular course that I ran. And so for me, purple is like, it's that colour of abundance, that colour of royalty, that real lush, just gives me a lot of lush vibes. And my social media manager is amazing. She does all my graphics for me.
Yeah,
she's all digging the purple.
Yeah, so the colours do make a big significance in this kind of work and in manifestation.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's going to give you a certain vibe. If it would be a lot different. It would look a lot different if it was hot pink or bright green or anything like that. So
very true. Yeah.
It'd give you a different feeling. Colour therapy is a good thing.
When I just really started reading about it with Ina Seagull and her book and the power of colours and things like that, and it's very fascinating. But just anything you look into deep enough, just expands and expands and expands.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. What are your practices with spirit, and how do you connect with spirit in your daily life and also in your healing practices?
It's changing now at a very rapid rate. Like I said, I'm working a lot more with Christ consciousness now. So I work with all different deities, especially Isis. I don't know if you know a lot about her.
The Egyptian healing goddess?
Yeah. So she first visited me in that first mushroom ceremony that I did, and I didn't know who she was. It was almost like someone came through and parked my consciousness to the side.
All are coming right through you.
Yeah.
Did that scare you in any way, or was that?
No, I think I was in such a state of safety and bliss and everything that I was more curious than anything else. But it really did feel like there was something else inhabiting my body and looking out of my eyes.
Wow.
And I sort of was just a passenger in that moment. And I was like, who are you? And then the name Isis just came through really strongly, and I had to go and speak to my mentor about it because I didn't know who that was.
Wow.
Like, I think I'd heard like stories studying Egypt in high school or whatever, but yeah,
That's
it was
cool.
really interesting. And then looking her up and working with her has been incredible. And then obviously working with Christ consciousness now as well, bringing that through. That's now a new field of study for me that I get very obsessed about things.
Yeah.
So I'm sure I've got ADD. But if I get onto something that, if I pull on a thread that's really interesting for me, like I'll pull the whole thread. Like I need to know everything that I can possibly about it.
Something to embody your consciousness, you want to know as much about it as possible. Yeah. How do you maintain and hold that connection? Like, does she come through when you're doing healing work, or do certain spirits come through to you and like work through your body? And how do you sort of maintain that relationship and call upon it when it's needed?
Yeah, with Isis, working with people when they're either physically here, sometimes online, but mostly in my physical presence, I will ask for some assistance with something, and I'll just ask her to, work through my hands. I also so when I went to Colombia last year and did ayahuasca, I did really have a good conversation with a whole bunch of angels, spirits, all that sort of stuff, which was really intense but very beautiful.
Yeah. Can you share any of that with us today?
I had another visitation from Isis, and the transmission was that I didn't need to call on her anymore because she was going to give me something to keep and hold on to that I could have just all the time. So
wow,
that was pretty phenomenal.
And is that healing abilities, or is it a mixed
Honestly,
bag of gifts?
there's so much that comes through in that space. Even when I was outside at one point, and I knew that I was receiving information from the sunlight, but my human brain couldn't decipher what it was. I just knew that it was information. I knew that it was important. So I just laid there and I'm like, okay, whatever, give it to me. I don't have much of a choice now.
Just downloading, yeah.
So the whatever it was that she gave me has really transformed my life since then.
Wow, that's beautiful. And now you're working with Christ consciousness. How would you define or describe Christ consciousness?
It's that next level of purity. So the way that I'm getting my head around it now is that everything that is created was created from God. And that Christ consciousness, which is in all of us, which is partly what I believe is why we're being so distracted, stressed out, controlled, because they're trying to keep a lid on the awakening of humanity, which is literally Christ consciousness waking up to itself, and essentially us, every single one of us becoming like Jesus at some point.
So with the Christ consciousness like an intermediary between us and God? Yeah.
It's like the human version.
Wow. Beautiful. That's amazing. And what are the experience like when you're working with it? And how do you incorporate that into your healing practices?
I've always called it through, especially in medicine journeys and stuff when I've done work with clients. It's a good thing to just have there, but it really is that pure unconditional love for all things. It's incredible. So it's very, very healing.
Yeah. And to healers out there who are coming up and wanting to start their own practices, what are some tips you'd give them of how to approach getting into the healing game and also expanding their business in such a way and balancing things like business, money and healing and the spirituality concept? Because these are very large and profound concepts. Bringing them together can be quite tough, especially when it comes to money and things like that, where there's two worlds coming together. Yeah,
and I think this is where it's really been very misconstrued in the healing game because for so long, people have thought that, you know, if you've got these healing gifts, you should just share them and not have, like, not get any money for them or anything like that. Which I sort of understand that as a concept. However, if you really trace it back to the very, very, you know, tribal days and everything, the healers were always very looked after. They were really important.
Yeah.
And so they didn't need money.
True, like the priesthoods in Egypt and stuff like that.
They were just looked after. They had all of their needs met and everything. Obviously, we're at a very different point in time now.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice? It would be absolutely lovely if I could just walk the world and just do my healing work and just have all my needs met. That'd be great. However, we don't live in that time anymore. And so it's important to understand the concept of money as energy. And if you're depleting yourself in order to serve others, then you're just buying into that martyr paradigm and you're basically setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm, which is not really good for anyone.
Good analogy.
Because then, you know, no one really wins. Like people might get healed and all that sort of stuff. But the other interesting thing about money, and because I've done so much work with it and on it and all of this stuff, money to me is your energetic permission slip. So if you go to a healer or a coach and you want a transformation and you're actually paying money, especially money that if it's a bit of a stretch for you, you're actually giving your energetic permission to receive that healing. You're saying to the universe, to the healer, to the coach, whoever it is, like, yes, I want this. Like, yes, please help me. And so quite often, especially in our Western society, people don't really value anything that they get for free.
True. That's very, very true.
It is what it is. And so, and I'm not saying like the more you pay, the more you're going to get healed. There's plenty of good healers out there that don't charge much. They probably should charge more. But the value of it, it's like, how do you put a price on healing? So if people are trying to bargain, I used to get it all the time before I sorted out my own money story. People would try to bargain on prices for sessions and stuff like that. I'm like, this is not the good guys. Like,
no less for cash. Huh?
You don't get less for cash. Would you like me to do half a healing job for you? Like, do you want to be partly healed?
100%.
So it's really interesting. But I cleared that out of my field so long ago. I don't get any of that sort of stuff anymore. But it was interesting that I was carrying that vibration at one point as well.
How did you remove that out of your sphere, out of your being?
A lot of mental reprogramming and knowing my worth and actually just more understanding these meta concepts where, like, when you understand energy and you understand money, the energy of money is quite a benevolent frequency. It's just been, it's like it's been used for evil. But it's like a tool, it's like a hammer. You can build a house with it or you can cave someone's head in. It's not the hammer's fault.
Yeah, it just is. Yeah.
It's like religion, it's the same thing. The premise and the basis of religion is amazing, but it's what people have done with it. So the issue is not the religion, the issue is the ego and the people that are using it to their advantage.
How did the reprogramming look like to you? Was it your willpower constructing thoughts to repeat them like mantras? Or was there an active, meditative, what was really the essence of overriding that belief system and getting it out of you for once and for all?
Yeah, understanding the bigger concepts really, really helped, more so than anything. And then going into a lot of parts integration. So if you've done any NLP and that sort of stuff.
Very, very vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, so parts integration, basically going into your unconscious mind and finding the parts of you that either don't feel safe with money, because remember I said it's not a money issue usually, it's a something else issue.
Yeah.
So it's just coming out in the money thing. So it's usually like you don't feel worthy of it or deserving of it. For me, it was a big safety issue. So because of what happened, this massive traumatic event with my family, I had put a cap on the amount of money that I was going to allow myself to earn because I didn't want to make too much money, because too much money equals a lot of pain.
Yeah, or you'd lose it all.
or I'd lose it all, and I wasn't going to run that. Like
so you had a fear of success and the fear of failure stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, so it sort of kept me, just at a certain level where I was comfortable, but I wasn't like gaining any ground.
Yeah.
And any money that I made that would come in would go out just as fast.
To people out there who are looking to really connect with spirit more, what advice would you give them of how to really connect in a safe and healthy way to spirit? Because I've heard of some people doing some very strange things, trying to connect with spirit and things that go wrong.
Oh, like what?
Or like I heard there was people in a house trying to connect with Kali, the god of death. And
God.
They just, I don't know how they did it. They had like some kind of apparatus and they were doing some ritual to bring her in, and then things in the house started to get very eerie and strange noises and things would break, and it's just, anyway. Yeah. So what's a safe and healthy way to connect with spirit? Don't recommend that, by the way.
I would probably say if you're not spiritually adept at floating around in, the astral and connecting with different spirits and stuff like that, like maybe don't start by fucking with the goddess of death and destruction first. Maybe steer clear of that. Don't go for your everyday demons or anything like that. Maybe start with something more loving, like Christ consciousness, or Lakshmi is another really good one. She's the goddess of money and abundance in the Indian culture. Isis is really good to work with. So just start by tuning into yourself in a deep meditation. Like I said, if you're really clogged with trauma, you need to do that first. But if you really connect in deeply, and then just ask. Ask to be shown.
It's quite simple, isn't it? Very, very simple, yeah.
Say to your higher self, your conscious awareness, God, source, creator, whatever you want to call it, just sit there and ask to be shown what it is, and ask for. So when I was first developing this in myself, because I couldn't really differentiate, much like with the emotional stuff, I couldn't really differentiate the messages that were coming through in my mind as to what was mine and what was just ego and thought.
Okay.
Sorry, what was ego and thought and what was actually not mine. And so I would ask for the message, and I would get the message, and then I would ask for a clarifier. So I would say, right, if this is a message from God or whatever, then I'll see a pink flamingo in the next 24 hours or whatever.
Oh, wow.
And so I would get that feedback from my external environment. And I still do that with things that I need, like decisions that I need clarity on.
Yeah.
Most people would say that's a really stupid way to make decisions. Looking for pink flamingos.
Delay, yeah. That's interesting. I've heard of that one before, where people ask questions to God or source, and if I see a monkey, it means this. If I see a flamingo, it means that. And in some weird way, they always see like a picture of it, or something on the TV pops up, and it's just like really miraculous to see that. It's almost like angel numbers, or so to speak, when they're constantly following you.
Again, it could be your reticular activating system, but even so, even if it is, from a science point of view, if it just is your RAS at work, and for those people that don't know, your reticular activating system is basically your filter on reality. And if you've flagged things as important, you'll see more of that in your reality. So say if you decide that you want to buy a Toyota Corolla, a white one, and you're going to then go and see a lot more of those. And it's not that Toyota had a sale, it's that you flagged that as important in your mind. And so you're naturally going to see more of that, because otherwise if we actually saw all of the trillions of bits of information that came in every second, we would be vegetables, basically. We'd be potatoes. It'd be too much information. So we need that filter on reality. However, depending on your trauma load, depending on your belief systems, your programming, your filter on reality is only going to feed back to you what your mind has said is important. So if you've said, I want to see a pink flamingo in order to make this decision, and you do, is it your reticular activating system just seeing the flamingo because you said it was important? Possibly, but also at the same time, it is just you. Like, you are an extension of the universe. You're talking to yourself anyway, so it is your own reticular activating system giving you the right cue.
Answering your own question.
Yeah.
I have found that when I do fasting practices and I'm very meticulous with my diet, my channel will be a lot clearer to the point where I can meditate and have visitations or have spoken word return to prayer in my mind. And then if I'm out of alignment or eating quite unhealthy, then that just goes away. And I was wondering, is that just me making that up, or is something about how clean your vessel is how you can receive?
Yeah, it makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
Huge difference. Yeah.
Because I have met some mediums who seem to be doing whatever they like and they get clear messages that come through. And I've met people who have to diet and fast and they can finally just get a little glimpse of it. Do people have certain abilities, or are there certain shortcuts to achieve certain things? Or
I don't know about shortcuts. I think you can expedite the process, especially with things like plant medicines. Have you ever done Cambo?
Never done Cambo, no.
You might want to do that.
You recommend it?
Yeah.
Is that where you throw up and shit yourself and
Yeah.
expel all the toxins?
You don't always shit yourself. I've never shat myself.
Okay, yeah.
But I know people that have.
Yeah. So maybe fasting before the Cambo would be a good idea, so there's nothing in your system.
You have to.
Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something about me is very fierce, very worried about Cambo, is the fact of I don't like feeling sick and
it'll clear that right out of you.
Oh, really?
I used to have a phobia of vomiting until I started doing Cambo.
Yeah. Okay. Cambo.
Yeah. It's a good purge.
Very good purge.
I did 3 days in a row last year, and I have never felt so clear after the third day.
Wow. Just removes all the toxins.
And everything else.
Yeah. Does it actually kill viruses and stuff in the body, like Epstein-Barr and things like that?
I'm not a Cambo practitioner, but I'm pretty sure it does a lot in the system. It's a really deep, energetic, and physical cleanse.
Okay, I'm going to note that. Yeah. I was going to ask you too, when it comes to spirituality, and people that are early in their awakening are going through a big awakening phase and just open up to the world of spirit, and they kind of lose touch with reality a little bit, where they can feel like they have mental breakdowns, mental health issues, and things like that. How do people stay balanced when those things are happening? And how do you recommend people find sanity when these things tend to happen to them?
A lot of grounding work. So yeah, I have noticed that with a few people where they start getting into the spiritual realms and everything, and they do all of that work, and they haven't got that real deep sense of grounding in their own physical vessel. Personally, I think it is very much linked into trauma as well. So if you're holding a lot of repressed emotions or holding a lot of pain that's unprocessed, and then you start having these spiritual awakenings, it can really fragment the psyche, and you can split off. And then it just ends up being this frenetic energy that's only held on by a tether to the physical vessel. So I believe that, and please don't think that I'm sitting on my moral high horse saying I'm so enlightened, because I'm not. But even through my own journey, if you want to really get out, you also have to take care of these. It's almost a journey of descent before ascent, to go into the system and figure out what's in here first before you can go out.
Yeah, very true. Well, I had an opposite response. Early on, I was having out-of-body experiences, lucid dreams, sleep paralysis, and things like that, to the point where I could just go to sleep and bang, I'm off somewhere else. And then I started to realize I was very ungrounded, had huge amounts of social anxiety and things like that. Started doing more embodiment work, and I haven't really gotten back to the point where I can do that anymore. But I feel so much more secure in my own body. But I'm now looking to venture out into the spiritual realms again, but I'm having issues doing that. So I don't know why I'm so out of balance, where it's one or the other. How do you find or have any practices when it comes to astral projection and lucid dreaming and things like that? Do you do much of that work, or have you experienced these happenings to you?
Yes, I used to get a lot of it as uncontrolled as well.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess that added to the confusion and everything in my 20s. I used to get a lot of it, like really vivid lucid dreams and all of that sort of stuff. And now I do remember dreams, but I don't have a lot of them as far as I can remember. As far as astral projecting and all that sort of stuff goes, I do a lot of it in meditation.
In meditation?
But I don't go too far out, because it's just not my focus at the moment.
Yeah.
focused more on what I'm doing here at this point in time.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about the uncontrolled nature of those happenings, and why do you think they happen to people, such as sleep paralysis and spontaneous projection and things like that?
Again, I think the sleep paralysis thing is a lot to do with trauma. I remember I used to get really bad sleep paralysis for years and years and years, and I had so much fear in my body. Like, I just did not feel safe anywhere. I didn't even know what safety felt like. The first actual somatic trauma session that I ever did years ago, when we do trauma work, we take people to what's called a resource first, which is where we get them to create a safe space in their mind and to calm the body down and send the body signals that there's safety. And I immediately burst into tears because I didn't know what that felt like. I couldn't get a safe space. I couldn't even create one in my mind. So it was a long process to even just get safety first. So yeah, it's I think that's the crux. I think it's very hard to differentiate anything else if you haven't sorted out your own internal world, at least some degree.
Yeah. Wow. And when you had that experience of not knowing what safety felt like and that release, how long until you got to the point where you could have that safe haven inside your mind and have that place of safety?
I think we probably did about 3 or 4 sessions on it until I could form a really good, safe resource.
Beautiful. That's quite quick.
Yeah. My trauma works pretty quick if you do it with someone that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Physical touch, I was doing it with my friend at the time. She was studying trauma. She studied trauma work before I did. And she was brilliant. But because we were such good friends as well, she was able to take me to that safe space probably a lot quicker than maybe just someone that I didn't know.
Which we need that trust level there.
Yeah.
Okay. Unrelated topic. There's a lot of stuff I'm seeing in your room here, like crystals and drums and things like that. How do you work with different objects? Like, how do you work with crystals and connect with them for healing, or things like the crow's wing and stuff like that? How do you really connect with these tools and use them in your practice?
I generally, if I'm going to be using, like, we know everything has a frequency, right? So the different frequencies of, quartz, selenite. There's a lot of selenite in this room because of the sort of work that I do. So that's got more of a clearing capability. I've got my deities everywhere for a bit of help and support from what I would call my spirit squad. So got all that around. As far as connecting with them goes, again, I just ask.
Simple.
I like to keep things really efficient.
Yeah. Well, spirituality is very simple. We complicate things. But when you first started the show, you had a crystal in your hand, and I could see the clear quartz.
Yeah.
What does that do for you? How does it feel when you're holding it?
That one's an interesting one, actually. This one.
Yeah.
So this was given to me by a client years ago that he'd taken it from a place up north. And I have 2 of them. The other one is a different type of quartz, and it's got more, it's actually in another room because I've got to take it out to the hills. But I'd always had this sensation, but I'd always had them together, but I had always had this sensation that they weren't happy.
The crystals weren't happy?
No. This is going to sound really weird to everyone. I hope your audience has an open mind.
I hope they do too.
But I always had them together, and it wasn't until I've got my 2 friends staying with me at the moment who are both healers and incredibly gifted at what they do. And as I was clearing out my room and just we were cleansing stuff, and I said to both of them, "Can both of you hold one of these crystals and tell me what you feel?" And Matilda said that the one that that I think is unhappy. She was like, "Oh, it just feels really sad, and there's something going on in the solar plexus chakra for her, which is symbolizing power and all of that." And then I got them to swap, and Danny said the same sort of thing. But when I split them up, when I held them, this one seemed fine, and it seems like it wants to stay.
Yeah.
So I've been doing a lot of work just holding onto it. It's clear quartz.
Beautiful.
But the other one is definitely not happy. And I'm definitely going to take it up to Kalamunda. And
is it like a he and a she crystal?
no, they're completely different. They just got given to me in a big bag of other crystals.
So
but
one of them didn't belong with you. That's why, or didn't belong with that other crystal? That was like a divorce.
No, I don't think they belonged in Perth.
Okay.
So they're from up north.
Fair enough.
In like mining, he got them from a mining site, and I just don't think they wanted to be removed.
Okay.
But this one seems pretty happy with me now.
Oh, cool. You've converted him.
Yeah, he's happy.
Wow. Let's have a look. Now, if you had an opportunity to speak to 1 billion people or to implant like a thought or an idea into the collective consciousness, what do you think that would be?
Do your trauma work.
Do your trauma work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heal your shit. Focus on your own healing before anything else. Because it bleeds into everything else.
Yeah. So anything that you're facing in life, any circumstances that are troubling, any pain, is all based on your trauma
100%.
work. Yeah.
Yeah. And the more clear you are of your own personal trauma load and any repressed emotions and all of that sort of stuff, the better relationships you can have, the more safety you can feel and create with others, the more love you can give and receive, the more money you'll make. Because at the same time as clearing out your trauma, you're also taking a look at your belief systems.
True.
Like, it is just crucial.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And before you go, do you reckon you could actually show us this machine you have here on camera?
Yeah, sure.
So this machine, what is it and what does it do?
This machine it uses light therapy to balance the chakras out, and I actually always wanted one, but you can only get them from St. John of God in Brazil, I believe.
Wow.
And basically these are quartz crystals, and then they have color therapy coming through them. So you line it up. So I'll have someone lying here, and they will line up along their chakra line.
Wow.
One of my clients gave it to me.
Gave it to you?
They're worth about $3,000. One of my clients gave it to me, and she's like, I've got this contraption that I don't want to move house with. Do you want it? And I was like, yes, I do.
Wow.
Yes, I do.
And this activates and clears the chakras?
Yeah, just balances things out. People get very relaxed afterwards. Sometimes I use it if I'm doing a trauma session, just to help the process.
Cool.
So.
So where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
Instagram mostly.
Yeah.
Instagram on my website.
What's the handle?
@HollyLoxton_coach.
Awesome. Again, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.